Welcome back to Infidelity Tales Lab. We're incredibly grateful for your support. Before we begin today's tale, tell us, which city or country are you joining us from? We love connecting with our global audience. Now, let's dive into today's story. Mitchell Bruce's fingers drummed against his mahogany desk as he reviewed the quarterly reports. Each tap echoed his grandfather's words from 20 years ago. Never trust anyone completely with your legacy, son. Not even family. The CEO suite of Bruce Medical Technologies showcased the company's evolution from his grandfather's humble startup to a billion-dollar corporation. Framed patents lined the walls, testament to their dominance in cutting-edge prosthetics. Mitchell adjusted his Patek Philippe watch, a habit he developed when contemplating major decisions. His intercom buzzed. "Mr. Bruce, your wife Irene is on line 1. She wants to discuss the press release for the neural interface project. Put her through." Mitchell's voice carried the authority of someone who'd never known failure. "Darling," Irene's voice purred through the speaker. "The board loves our angle on the neural interface. Bridging humanity's future. It's perfect for the shareholders' meeting." "Good. Keep it vague. I don't want Apex or any other competitors getting wind of the specifics." "Of course." "Oh." And Tyler called. "He needs to discuss the university fundraiser tonight." Mitchell's jaw tightened. Their son's recent spending patterns concerned him, but appearances had to be maintained. "Tell him I'll see him there." "And Irene? Make sure Emma's wearing something appropriate. Last time she looked more ready for a college party than a fundraiser." "Already handled, dear. Our daughter will be perfect tonight." The call ended, and Mitchell returned to his reports. The neural interface project would revolutionize prosthetic technology, assuming they could keep it secure until the patent went through. A sharp knock interrupted his thoughts. Dustin Whalen entered, his face tight with concern. Mitchell had known Dustin since their prep school days back when Bruce Medical was just beginning its expansion. Now, as head of R&D, Dustin was one of the few people Mitchell trusted implicitly. "Close the door," Mitchell ordered, recognizing his friend's expression. "What's wrong?" Dustin ran a hand through his graying hair. "We've detected unusual access patterns in the secure servers. Someone's been pulling neural interface design files after hours." Mitchell leaned back, his expression neutral. "Our people often work late. Nothing unusual there. The login credentials belong to PR department computers." "Irene's department. She's working on the press package. She'd need reference materials." Dustin placed a tablet on Mitchell's desk. "These aren't publicity files, Mitch. They're detailed schematics, core architecture documents." And he hesitated. "Spit it out." "The files are being sent to an external server. We traced it. It belongs to Apex Innovations." Mitchell's fingers stopped drumming. "Bob Cummins was here last week. The charity gala." "Yes." "He spent an unusual amount of time talking to Irene. My wife." Mitchell's voice turned glacial. "Knows better than to discuss proprietary information." Dustin shifted uncomfortably. "There's more. The access pattern started 3 months ago, right after you promoted Jackson to head of cybersecurity." "Jackson?" Mitchell pulled up the company directory. "Wasn't he Irene's recommendation?" "He was. And he's been deliberately overlooking these security breaches." Mitchell stood and walked to his private bar, pouring 2 fingers of scotch. He didn't offer any to Dustin. "Tell me everything. Every login. Every file accessed. Every external connection." "And Dustin? Keep this between us. If anyone asks, you're reviewing standard security protocols." "What about Irene?" Mitchell took a slow sip of scotch, his grandfather's words echoing in his mind. "My wife is either being manipulated or she's betraying us. Either way, I'll handle it." "Mitch, if Bob Cummins is involved, I know his reputation. 3 companies in 5 years, all acquired under suspicious circumstances." Mitchell's hand tightened on the glass. "All after mysterious technology leaks and internal chaos. Should we alert the board?" "No. For now, we watch and gather evidence. Give Jackson enough rope to hang himself." "And Dustin?" "Have IT quietly duplicate every file in PR servers. I want to know exactly what they're accessing and when." After Dustin left, Mitchell pulled up the charity gala photos on his computer. There, Bob Cummins, CEO of Apex, talking intimately with Irene. His wife's body language screamed familiarity. Mitchell opened his desk drawer and removed a small black device. Years of corporate warfare had taught him to prepare for betrayal. He pressed a button, activating the private investigators he kept on retainer. Surveillance package 4, he spoke into the device. Target, Irene Bruce. Secondary target, Bob Cummins. Full coverage, effective immediately. He replaced the device and turned to his computer, pulling up his family's financial records. 20 years of marriage had taught him to keep certain accounts private. Now, those resources would fund his investigation. The intercom buzzed again. Mr. Bruce, your son Tyler is here. Send him in. Tyler entered, every inch the privileged air in his tailored suit. But Mitchell noted the slight tremor in his hands, the too bright gleam in his eyes. Dad, about tonight's fundraiser. Sit down, Tyler. Mitchell's tone made it clear this wasn't a request. Before we discuss tonight, explain the $50,000 missing from your trust fund. Tyler's facade cracked. There was this investment opportunity. Don't lie to me, son. Not ever. Mitchell pulled up his son's bank statements. The withdrawals align perfectly with major sporting events. You're gambling again. It's under control. I've got a system, like the system that put you in debt last semester. The debt that mysteriously disappeared. Mitchell watched his son's reaction carefully. Who paid it off, Tyler? I can't. Your mother? Mitchell's voice could have frozen hell. When? Tyler's silence was answer enough. Mitchell poured another scotch, his mind racing. Irene had access to certain charitable accounts. If she was embezzling funds to cover Tyler's gambling debts. Tonight's fundraiser, Mitchell said finally. You'll be there. You'll smile. You'll charm the donors. And tomorrow, you'll give me every detail of your gambling debts and your mother's involvement. Every single detail. Dad, please. Those are your options, son. Cooperate, or I freeze every account you have and send you to the rehabilitation facility in Switzerland. The one without internet access or phones. Tyler slumped in defeat. She said if I kept quiet about her meetings, she'd handle everything. Meetings? With her book club. But Emma said. Mitchell's phone buzzed. A text from his private investigators. They've found something already. Go, he told Tyler. Remember what I said about tonight. Alone again, Mitchell read the text. His investigators had tracked Irene's recent credit card activity. Multiple charges at upscale hotels, always during her supposed book club meetings. Mitchell opened his family photo album, studying his wife's face in their recent vacation pictures. 20 years of marriage, 2 children, a shared empire. And she was willing to risk it all. His grandfather's final words came back to him. In business and in life, son, never let betrayal go unpunished. It only encourages more snakes to bite. Mitchell closed the album and made another call. Give me everything on Bob Cummins. His usual methods, his weaknesses, his previous conquests. And find out who else is in my wife's book club. The perfect life he'd built was showing cracks, but Mitchell Bruce hadn't become a billionaire by being merciful to his enemies. If his wife and Bob Cummins wanted to play games, he'd teach them the true meaning of corporate warfare and family loyalty. The university fundraiser buzzed with Silicon Valley's elite, each conversation a potential business deal or social assassination. Mitchell Bruce watched it all from his carefully chosen position near the main entrance, noting every interaction, every whispered exchange. His wife Irene worked the room like the PR professional she was, her red designer dress drawing admiring glances. But Mitchell noticed something else. The slight tremor in her hand as she checked her phone, the way her eyes darted to the exit every few minutes. Mrs. Bruce is quite the social butterfly, remarked Gerald Thompson, one of Mitchell's board members. I heard she's spearheading the new charitable initiative with Apex Innovations. Mitchell's expression remained pleasant, but his mind raced. This was the first he'd heard of any initiative with Apex. Indeed, my wife has always had excellent instincts for beneficial partnerships. Bob Cummins certainly seems to think so. He was singing her praises at the country club last week. Mitchell excused himself and moved through the crowd, cataloging every detail. Irene disappeared again, clutching her phone. He gave her exactly 3 minutes before following. The university's Baroque architecture provided plenty of alcoves and private corners. Mitchell heard Irene's voice from behind a massive Greek column. "Bob, not now. You're being impatient. Yes, tonight's still on. The neural interface specs are almost ready, but we need to be careful." Mitchell's not stupid. Mitchell stayed perfectly still, recording every word on his phone. No, Tyler doesn't suspect anything. The gambling debts were perfect leverage. Emma? She's more observant, but the car handled that. Yes, I'll meet you at the usual place. Midnight. Irene emerged from behind the column, dabbing at her lipstick. She nearly collided with Mitchell. "Darling, I was just powdering my nose." Mitchell smiled, noting the slight smudge of lipstick she'd missed. The acoustics in this building are fascinating, aren't they? You can hear everything so clearly. Irene's smile faltered for just a moment. "I should mingle more." The dean's wife was asking about our donation to the science building. "Of course." "Oh, and Irene? Red isn't really your color tonight." "Too obvious." He watched her hurry away, then texted his investigators. They'd be following her to her midnight rendezvous. Mitchell found Emma by the dessert table, his 17-year-old daughter, looking sophisticated beyond her years in a conservative black dress. But her eyes held a darkness he recognized, the weight of unwanted knowledge. "Walk with me," he commanded softly. They strolled through the university's sculpture garden, away from prying ears. "Tell me about the car," Mitchell said finally. Emma's step faltered. "Dad." "The truth, Emma. All of it." His daughter's composure cracked. "I saw them last week. Mom and Mr. Cummins, leaving the Four Seasons. It was obvious what they'd been doing. When Mom saw me, she tried to play it off as a business meeting. The next day, she gave me this." Emma pulled a key fob from her clutch. Mitchell recognized the BMW logo. She said it was an early graduation present. "Our secret." Emma's voice turned bitter. "I'm not stupid, Dad. I know what hush money looks like." Mitchell took the key fob, his rage ice cold and precise. "Has she given you anything else? Money? Jewelry?" "No. But Tyler, he was in trouble with some bad people. Mom made it go away. And in return, he lies for her. Says she's with him when she's really somewhere else." "Someone else?" Mitchell pocketed the key fob. "You've done well telling me this. Now listen carefully. Tonight, you'll continue playing the perfect daughter. Tomorrow, you'll show me every text, every email, every interaction you've had with your mother about this situation. What are you going to do?" Mitchell's smile was terrifying in its calmness. "I'm going to teach everyone involved a lesson about loyalty." Starting with Bob Cummins, they returned to the fundraiser. Mitchell watched Irene work the room, noting how she'd positioned their son Tyler near the bar. A calculated risk, keeping him visible but tempted. His phone vibrated. Another text from his investigators, this time with photos. Irene entering the Four Seasons. Bob Cummins following 10 minutes later. Hotel receipts. Room service charges. Mitchell forwarded everything to a secure server, then approached Tyler. "Having fun, son?" Tyler flinched, nearly spilling his water. "Dad, relax. I'm not here to lecture. Tell me about the last time you covered for your mother." "Details, Tyler. Every single one." His son glanced nervously at Irene across the room. "She said you'd be angry, that it would destroy the family. The family is already under attack. The question is, whose side are you on?" Tyler broke, the words tumbling out. 3 weeks ago, she said she was having dinner with me, but she was meeting him. Mr. Cummins. She paid off Marco. I owe him money. A lot of money. This Marco. He's your bookie? Please, Dad. Name. Address. Contact information. Now. Tyler scribbled everything on a napkin, his hands shaking. Mitchell pocketed it. "Good boy. Now go dance with the dean's daughter. Keep smiling." Mitchell made another call, this time to his less legitimate contacts. Marco the bookie would be receiving a visit tonight, along with an offer he couldn't refuse. All evidence of Tyler's gambling debts would disappear, under Mitchell's control, not Irene's. The fundraiser continued, a glittering facade hiding rot and betrayal. Mitchell watched Irene check her phone again, no doubt confirming her midnight rendezvous with Bob Cummins. His own phone buzzed. Dustin had found something in the company's servers, proof that someone in PR had accessed confidential files just hours ago. The login credentials belonged to Dina Wells, Irene's assistant. Mitchell remembered Dina, young, ambitious, and completely devoted to Irene. Too devoted, perhaps. He texted his investigators again. Background check, Dina Wells. Priority 1. The pieces were falling into place. Irene wasn't just betraying him personally. She was systematically undermining everything he'd built. Using their children as pawns, stealing company secrets, probably embezzling funds to cover Tyler's gambling debts. And Bob Cummins. Mitchell had underestimated the man's audacity. Seducing the CEO's wife, corrupting his children, planning to steal his company's breakthrough technology. Mitchell's grandfather had taught him well. In business, sentiment was weakness. Loyalty had to be absolute, or it was worthless. He watched Irene laugh at someone's joke, her red dress a splash of blood against the crowd. Midnight approached, and with it her rendezvous with Bob Cummins. Mitchell allowed himself a small, cold smile. Let them play their games. He was already 10 moves ahead, and unlike them, he wouldn't show mercy when checkmate came. The perfect life they tried to destroy would become their perfect nightmare. The morning after the fundraiser, Mitchell Bruce arrived at his office 2 hours earlier than usual. The building was nearly empty, perfect for what he had planned. His investigators' overnight report waited in his encrypted email. Photos of Irene entering the Four Seasons at midnight. Bob Cummins arriving separately. More hotel receipts, room service charges, and surveillance footage. But the real prize was what they'd found on Dina Wells, Irene's supposedly loyal assistant. Mitchell pressed his intercom. Send in Ms. Wells immediately. Dina arrived minutes later, impeccably dressed but nervous. Mitchell let her stand while he reviewed her file. Interesting reading, Ms. Wells. Multiple bankruptcies under different names. A sealed juvenile record. And significant deposits to your offshore account. All coinciding with our neural interface project timeline. Mr. Bruce, I can explain. Yes, you will. Mitchell's voice could have cut diamond. Every detail. Starting with the charitable donation records my wife asked you to alter. Dina crumbled under his stare. Mrs. Bruce said it was for tax purposes. That everyone did it. The exact amounts. Now, $3 million to the Children's Hospital Foundation. But it never arrived. $2 million to the University Research Fund. Same thing. There were others. Mitchell recorded everything, his rage building with each revelation. Irene hadn't just been stealing technology. She'd been systematically looting their charitable foundations. Mrs. Bruce said the money was being reallocated to special projects. Dina continued, her voice trembling. She made me set up the wire transfers through shell companies. These shell companies. Mitchell leaned forward. Did they connect to Apex Innovations? Dina nodded miserably. Not directly. Everything went through offshore accounts first. Mrs. Bruce was very specific about the routing. Mitchell pulled up the company's financial records on his screen. Show me. For the next hour, Dina detailed every fraudulent transaction, every falsified record. Mitchell watched as she exposed the elaborate web of financial deceit his wife had woven. Last week, Dina said, Mrs. Bruce had me prepare documentation showing our neural interface research started after Apex filed their preliminary patents. She's building a paper trail to make it look like we stole their technology instead of the other way around. Mitchell's voice remained deadly calm. Clever. Mr. Bruce, Dina hesitated. There's something else. About your son Tyler's gambling debts. Mitchell's eyes narrowed. Continue. Mrs. Bruce didn't just pay them off. She's been encouraging them, introducing Tyler to specific bookies, ensuring he stays in debt. She needed leverage to keep him quiet about her meetings with Mr. Cummins. The pieces clicked into place. Mitchell remembered Tyler's nervous behavior at the fundraiser, the way Irene had positioned him near the bar. These bookies, Mitchell said. Names. Contacts. Everything you know. Dina wrote quickly, filling several pages with details. Mrs. Bruce has them on retainer. They report directly to her about Tyler's losses. And my daughter, Emma? The car was just the start. Mrs. Bruce has been setting up a trust fund in Emma's name. Offshore, untraceable. She calls it her insurance policy. Mitchell's phone buzzed. Another update from his investigators. They'd traced the offshore accounts Dina had identified. The money trail led to a complex network of shell companies, all eventually connecting to Bob Cummins. "Ms. Wells," Mitchell said finally, "you have a choice to make. Continue working with my wife, in which case you'll face federal charges when this explodes. Or cooperate with me, document everything, and receive full immunity plus a generous severance package." Dina's answer was immediate. "What do you need?" "Everything. Every email, every document, every conversation. You'll report directly to me. Irene must not suspect anything has changed." After Dina left, Mitchell called his most trusted lawyer. "Start the paperwork. I want everything ready: divorce filings, criminal complaints, forensic audits. But nothing gets filed until I give the word." His next call was to a private security firm. "Full surveillance package on Bob Cummins. I want to know everyone he meets, everywhere he goes, especially his contact with Apex shareholders." Mitchell pulled up the company's stock records. Over the past 6 months, several shell companies had been quietly acquiring shares. Not enough to trigger regulatory warnings, but together they formed a significant block. "Sir?" His secretary's voice came through the intercom. "Your son Tyler is here." Mitchell checked the time. Barely 8 a.m. "Send him in." Tyler looked terrible, his expensive clothes wrinkled, his face pale. "Dad, I need to tell you something. About Mom and Mr. Cummins." "Sit down, son." Mitchell poured 2 glasses of water. "No alcohol this early. Tell me everything." "It's worse than you think," Tyler said. "Mom's been recording their meetings. Not just audio, video. She says it's insurance, but what?" "I overheard her on the phone with Mr. Cummins. They're not just stealing the neural interface designs. They're planning to take over Bruce Medical completely. Mom's been gathering dirt on board members, finding their weaknesses." Mitchell remembered the charity gala, how Irene had worked the room. Not just socializing, hunting for vulnerabilities. "How long have you known?" Tyler's hands shook as he reached for the water. "A few months. Mom caught me in a bad spot with the bookies. She offered to handle it if I helped her. Introduced me to new bookies, encouraged me to keep playing. Said she needed me in debt to keep me loyal. And you agreed?" Mitchell's voice could have frozen nitrogen. "I was desperate. The old bookies were threatening to break my legs. Mom said she'd protect me, that it was just business, that you'd never understand." Mitchell stood, towering over his son. "You betrayed this family for gambling debts? Your inheritance, your future, your integrity, all worth less than a bet." "Dad, please." "No more chances, Tyler. You have exactly one opportunity to salvage something from this disaster. You'll tell me every detail of your mother's plan. Every meeting, every conversation, every scrap of information. Then you're going to rehab the facility in Switzerland I mentioned. 6 months minimum. But my classes are meaningless compared to what you've done." Mitchell's voice softened slightly. "This is your chance, son. Redemption or destruction. Choose." For the next hour, Tyler spilled everything he knew. Irene's meetings with Bob Cummins, their plans to use the stolen technology, the systematic corruption of Bruce Medical's charitable foundations. When Tyler finished, Mitchell called his secretary. "Get the corporate jet ready. My son needs to reach Switzerland tonight." "Dad." Tyler looked broken. "I'm sorry. Actions have consequences, son. Remember that in rehab?" Mitchell handed him a burner phone. "This connects directly to me. You'll report weekly on your progress. Prove to me you can be trusted again." After Tyler left, Mitchell reviewed everything he'd learned. Irene's betrayal went deeper than he'd imagined. Not just an affair, but a calculated plan to destroy everything he'd built. His grandfather's words echoed again. Never let betrayal go unpunished. Mitchell opened his safe and removed a black ledger. His personal record of every favor owed, every piece of leverage he'd accumulated over decades in business. Time to start calling in debts. Bob Cummins and Irene thought they were playing a sophisticated game. Mitchell would show them the difference between amateur manipulation and true corporate warfare. The perfect life they tried to destroy would become their perfect nightmare. But first, he needed to gather more evidence, set more traps, and ensure that when he struck, the destruction would be absolute. After all, He hadn't built a billion-dollar empire by showing mercy to enemies or traitors. Mitchell Bruce's private conference room buzzed with focused energy as Laurel Becker spread financial documents across the table. Her reputation as a forensic accountant preceded her. She'd exposed 3 major corporate fraud cases in the past year alone. The pattern is sophisticated, Laurel said, tapping her tablet. Your wife didn't just steal technology. She's been preparing for a hostile takeover for months. Mitchell studied the complex web of transactions on the screen. Show me. These shell companies. Laurel highlighted several entries. They're all connected to Apex Innovations through a maze of offshore accounts. Bob Cummins has been accumulating shares in Bruce Medical Technologies, staying just under the reporting threshold. How much? Combined with the shares controlled by sympathetic board members? Nearly 28%. Laurel pulled up another document. But that's not the worst part. Look at these charitable foundation transfers. Mitchell's jaw tightened as he saw the numbers. The neural interface research funding, diverted through multiple accounts, then used to finance the share purchases. Mrs. Bruce has been using your own money to fund the takeover. The door opened, and Rick Carney entered. Mitchell's old college roommate had traded his fraternity letters for an FBI badge years ago. Now he carried a thick file stamped confidential. Bob Cummins isn't just a corporate raider, Rick said, dropping the file on the table. He's a predator with a pattern. 3 companies in 5 years, all in medical technology. Always the same method. Seduce the CEO's wife, steal company secrets, then crush the business. Mitchell opened the file. Names: Medicore Solutions, 2019. Patricia Wilson, CEO's wife. Company bankrupted after their neural implant designs were stolen. Tech Health Industries, 2021. Sarah Martinez, CEO's wife. Lost everything when their prosthetic patents were compromised. Biosync Corporation, 2022. Jennifer Taylor, CEO's wife. Company collapsed after their research data was leaked. And now Irene. Mitchell's voice carried deadly calm. She's not just another conquest, Laurel interjected. The financial manipulation here is far more sophisticated than his previous operations. Your wife isn't just helping him. She's innovating his method. Mitchell turned to his R&D director, Dustin Whalen, who'd been quietly observing. The neural interface prototype? Ready? Dustin pulled up technical specifications on the main screen. We've embedded subtle flaws in the architecture. Nothing obvious, but catastrophic under real-world conditions. When they try to demonstrate it, it'll fail spectacularly. Mitchell nodded. And the real prototype? Secure with my most trusted team. We've compartmentalized the development. No one person has access to the complete design. Rick flipped through more pages in his file. Cummins is planning something big. His recent stock purchases, the technological espionage. It's all building to a major move. An investor's presentation, Laurel said, checking her tablet. Scheduled for next month. Apex is promising a revolutionary breakthrough in neural interface technology. Mitchell's phone buzzed, a text from his private investigators. They tracked Irene to another hotel meeting with Bob Cummins. Your wife doesn't know you're aware of anything, Rick said carefully. We could move now, have enough evidence for criminal charges. No. Mitchell's voice brooked no argument. That's what they're expecting, an emotional response, a rush confrontation. We do this my way. He stood and walked to the digital display, studying the web of connections Laurel had mapped. Dustin, leak the flawed prototype through the usual channels. Make sure Irene's department has access. They'll steal it immediately. Exactly. Meanwhile, Rick, I want everything on Bob's previous victims. Not just the corporate stats, personal details. How he approached them, what leverage he used, how he broke them. Rick nodded grimly. Already working on it. These women, they're not just betrayed wives. They're sophisticated business partners who got drawn into his web. Patricia Wilson was CFO before marrying the CEO. Sarah Martinez had 2 patents in her name. Like Irene, Mitchell mused. PR expert who married the CEO. Tell me about Jennifer Taylor. Interesting case. Rick consulted his notes. She actually approached Bob first, thinking she could play him. Ended up losing everything. Reputation, marriage, career. Last I heard, she was working as a consultant in Singapore. Get me in touch with all of them. Mitchell's tone made it clear this wasn't a request. They'll want revenge. Laurel looked up from her tablet. Mrs. Bruce has a meeting scheduled with the board next week. Topic listed as strategic partnership opportunities. She's laying groundwork, Dustin said, preparing them for Apex's move. Mitchell's phone buzzed again. Another update from his investigators. This time with audio. He played it on speaker. Irene's voice. The board's practically in our pocket. Mitchell trusts me to handle the PR, never checks the details. Bob Cummins, perfect. Once we announce our breakthrough, Bruce Medical's stock will plummet. Your husband won't know what hit him. Irene's laugh. He's so focused on his precious legacy, he can't see what's right in front of him. The children were a nice touch. Using Tyler's gambling to keep him quiet, buying Emma's silence with that car. Mitchell switched off the audio, his expression unchanged. Laurel, I want every financial transaction tracked. Every dollar, every share purchase. Rick, keep building the criminal case, but nothing gets filed yet. Dustin, the flawed prototype is ready whenever you give the word. Good. Mitchell checked his watch. Now, let's discuss the board members Irene's compromised. I want detailed profiles on each one. Their weaknesses, their pressure points, their vulnerabilities. For the next hour, they dissected the board's composition. Mitchell had dossiers on every member, information gathered over years of corporate warfare. Harold Thompson, he read from one file. 3 mistresses, 2 offshore accounts. Susan Chun, son with a cocaine habit, daughter involved in a hit-and-run cover-up. Michael Roberts, insider trading investigation buried 5 years ago. You knew about all this? Rick asked. Knowledge is power. Mitchell's smile was predatory. I keep files on everyone. Insurance. Laurel whistled softly as she reviewed the dossiers. This is better than what we normally get from official investigations. I didn't build a billion-dollar company by being naive. Mitchell turned to Rick. How long until you can arrange meetings with Bob's previous victims? Give me 48 hours. Jennifer Taylor's already in Singapore, but Patricia Wilson and Sarah Martinez are both on the West Coast. Perfect. Mitchell pressed a button on his phone. Send in Ms. Wells. Dina Wells entered, carrying more files. She'd been invaluable since turning against Irene, providing detailed documentation of every fraudulent transaction. Mr. Bruce, she said, I have the updated records you requested. Mrs. Bruce had me prepare a presentation for the board meeting. It's designed to make Apex look like a natural strategic partner. Show me. As Dina walked them through the presentation, Mitchell's strategy crystallized. He wasn't just planning to stop the takeover. He was going to destroy everyone involved. One more thing, Dina added hesitantly. Mrs. Bruce has been meeting with the company's major shareholders. Private dinners, golf outings. She's been persuasive. Mitchell's smile would have frozen hell. Oh, I'm counting on that. Every person she charms, every ally she thinks she's made. They're all threads in the web I'm weaving. Rick studied his old friend's expression. You're enjoying this, aren't you? They chose this battlefield, Mitchell replied. Now they'll learn why I've never lost a corporate war. The meeting concluded with clear assignments. Laurel would trace every financial connection. Rick would build the criminal case and contact Bob's previous victims. Dustin would manage the prototype deception, and Dina would continue feeding them information from inside Irene's operation. Mitchell remained in the conference room after everyone left, reviewing the evidence they'd gathered. His phone buzzed one final time, another text from his investigators. Target BC meeting with board member Roberts at private club. Target IB spotted entering same location 30 minutes later. Mitchell allowed himself a small smile. Let them plot and scheme. Every move they made brought them closer to their own destruction. He learned corporate warfare at his grandfather's knee, and the first rule was simple. When victory comes, make it absolute. Emma Bruce's hands trembled as she replayed the video on her phone. The afternoon sun through the beach house windows illuminated the unmistakable scene she'd captured. Her mother, Irene, locked in an intimate embrace with Bob Cummins. Delete it. Irene's voice carried deadly sweetness. Now, Emma looked up at her mother, noting the smeared lipstick, the slightly disheveled hair. Why? so you can keep destroying our family. Don't be dramatic, darling. Irene perched on the leather sofa, smoothing her designer dress. This is business. Adult business. Something you're too young to understand. I understand betrayal. Emma's voice shook with fury. I understand what you're doing to Dad, to the company. Irene's laugh tinkled like broken glass. Your father? The great Mitchell Bruce? She leaned forward. Let me explain something about business, sweetheart. Your father's time is over. He's too rigid, too obsessed with his grandfather's legacy. Bob and I are the future. You mean you and your lover are thieves? Such a harsh word. Irene opened her purse, withdrew a document. I prefer strategic partners. Speaking of which, Emma glanced at the paper. Details of a trust fund in her name. 7 figures, offshore accounts, completely untraceable. Your future secured, Irene said softly. All you have to do is delete that video and keep quiet about what you've seen. You're trying to buy my silence? Like you did with the cars? I'm trying to protect you, darling. When this is over, Bruce Medical will have new leadership. Your father. Irene shrugged elegantly. Well, let's just say his position will be diminished. You'll want to be on the right side of history. Emma stood, her phone clutched tight. I already am. She rushed from the beach house, tears blurring her vision. Behind her, Irene's voice carried a warning. Think carefully about your choices, Emma. Family loyalty cuts both ways. In her car, Emma's hands shook as she called her father. His response was immediate. Are you safe? Yes, Dad, I have something you need to see. Mom and Mr. Cummins, come to my office. Now. 20 minutes later, Emma sat in her father's corporate suite, watching his expression as he viewed the video. His face remained impassive, but his knuckles whitened on the desk. She tried to buy my silence, Emma said, placing the trust fund document beside him. Like she did with Tyler's gambling debts. Mitchell studied the document, his voice dangerously soft. Tell me everything. Emma recounted the beach house confrontation, her mother's threats, the attempted bribe. As she spoke, Mitchell's expression grew colder. You did well, he said finally. The video, the trust fund offer, it's all evidence. Evidence? Dad, what are you? A commotion outside interrupted them. Tyler burst in, his expensive clothes rumpled, his face desperate. Dad, I need help. The bookies. Mitchell's voice cut like a razor. More gambling debts? It's not my fault. Mom said she'd handle it. But now they're threatening to break my legs unless I pay $200,000 by midnight. Emma watched her father stand, towering over his son. Your mother promised to handle it? She said as long as I helped her with Mr. Cummins. Helped how? Tyler's words tumbled out. Alibis for hotel meetings, covering her absences, lying to their father. Each revelation made Mitchell's expression harder. Please, Dad, Tyler begged. I know I messed up, but you betrayed this family for gambling debts. Mitchell's voice could have frozen flame. Your sister showed courage, integrity. You showed weakness. Mom said it was just business. That everyone does it. Everyone. Mitchell pressed a button on his phone. Send in Mr. Santiago. A broad-shouldered man in an expensive suit entered. Emma recognized him, their father's head of security. Take my son to the private medical facility in Switzerland, Mitchell ordered. 6 months minimum. No phones, no internet, no contact except through me. Dad, no. Tyler protested. You can't. I can and I will. This is your chance at redemption, son. Take it, or I'll let the bookies have their way with you. Emma watched as Mr. Santiago led her brother out, Tyler's protests fading down the hall. Was that necessary? She asked softly. Mitchell turned to her, his expression softening slightly. Your brother made his choices. Now he faces the consequences. He picked up her phone with the damning video. Just like your mother will. What are you going to do? Protect this family. The real family. The ones who understand loyalty. He studied her face. You've shown strength, Emma. Unlike your brother, unlike your mother, you chose integrity over expedience. Emma felt tears threatening again. It hurts, Dad, seeing her like this. I know. For a moment, his mask slipped, showing a glimpse of pain. Then it hardened again. But we are Bruces. We don't break, we don't bend, And we never forget betrayal. His phone buzzed. Another message from his investigators. More evidence of Irene's meetings with Bob Cummins. More proof of their plans to steal Bruce Medical's technology. Go home, he told Emma. But first, transfer that video to my secure server. And Emma, be careful. Your mother is desperate now, and desperate people are dangerous. After Emma left, Mitchell reviewed the trust fund document she'd brought. Another piece of evidence, another thread in the web of betrayal. His phone buzzed again, this time a message from Dustin. The flawed prototype was in place, ready to be discovered by Irene's department. Everything was proceeding according to plan. Let them think they were winning. Let them grow confident in their schemes. Midnight would strike soon enough. The investors' presentation hall hummed with anticipation. Bob Cummins stood at the podium, his charisma working its usual magic on the assembled shareholders and media representatives. Ladies and gentlemen, he announced, today marks a revolutionary breakthrough in neural interface technology. Apex Innovations is proud to present the future of medical science. In the back of the hall, Mitchell Bruce watched silently. Beside him, Dustin Whalen shifted nervously. Any moment now, Bob launched into his presentation, showcasing the stolen prototype's capabilities. The technical specifications, taken directly from Bruce Medical's secured servers, drew appreciative murmurs from the crowd. As you can see, Bob continued smoothly. Our research team has achieved what others thought impossible. This technology will transform the prosthetics industry. Mitchell's phone vibrated. A text from his investigators. Target IB preparing press release claiming corporate espionage by Bruce Medical. Right on cue, Irene rose from her seat in the front row, her designer's suit immaculate, her smile practiced perfection. Mr. Cummins, can you address the rumors that Bruce Medical Technologies is developing similar technology? Bob's rehearsed response came smoothly. Any similarities would be because they've been monitoring our research. In fact, we have evidence suggesting corporate espionage on their part. Dustin's tablet lit up with alerts. The flawed prototype was activating, its carefully engineered defects beginning to manifest. Would you like to demonstrate the interface's capabilities? Irene asked sweetly. Of course. Bob gestured to his technical team. Let's show everyone exactly what this breakthrough can do. Mitchell's lips curved in a predator smile as the demonstration began. 3, 2, 1. The prototype sparked violently. Error messages flooded the display screens. The neural interface's fundamental flaws emerged catastrophically. Smoke rose from the testing unit as safety alarms blared. Minor technical difficulties. Bob attempted to maintain his composure. If we could just... Another surge of errors. The prototype's safety protocols failed completely, causing a cascade of system failures. The assembled investors shifted uneasily in their seats. Mr. Cummins, a major shareholder, stood up. Are you saying this technology is ready for medical applications? Before Bob could respond, more alarms triggered. The technical team scrambled frantically, but every attempted fix only revealed more critical flaws in the system. Mitchell watched from the back, noting how Irene's confident smile had frozen. Her fingers flew over her phone, no doubt trying to salvage their carefully orchestrated plan. Perhaps, Mitchell's voice carried clearly through the chaos. Apex Innovation should focus on proper research and development instead of stealing flawed prototypes. The room fell silent. Bob's face reddened as he recognized Mitchell's voice. Mr. Bruce, are you suggesting? I'm not suggesting anything. Mitchell strode forward, his presence commanding attention. I'm stating facts. That prototype was stolen from Bruce Medical Technologies. Though I must thank you for demonstrating its security features so dramatically. Dustin stepped forward with his tablet. The neural interface you're attempting to demonstrate contains proprietary failsafe protocols. Protocols that activate when unauthorized users attempt to replicate our technology. Irene stood quickly. These are baseless accusations. Our PR department has prepared a detailed response to Bruce Medical's corporate espionage. You mean your PR department, Mrs. Bruce? Mitchell's smile was arctic. The same department that's been accessing secured servers after hours? Interesting timing. The investors were muttering now, several already reaching for their phones to sell Apex stock. Bob tried to regain control of the situation. These are merely technical issues that any groundbreaking technology that can be easily proven false, Mitchell interrupted. Dustin, show them the access logs. The main screen displayed clear evidence. Login credentials, file transfers, all traced to Irene's department and Apex Innovations. Ladies and gentlemen, Mitchell addressed the crowd, what you've witnessed today is not a technological breakthrough. It's industrial espionage gone wrong. My wife and Mr. Cummins thought they could steal and replicate our research. They failed. Irene's phone buzzed continuously as investors began demanding explanations. She glanced at Bob, who had gone pale as his technical team confirmed the prototype was completely unsalvageable. If you'll excuse me, Mitchell concluded, I have a dinner engagement. Though I suggest any Apex shareholders contact their brokers quickly. Stock prices tend to plummet when corporate theft is exposed. He turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Irene? Don't wait up tonight. I believe you have a girls' night planned with Sylvia Warner and Tammy Irwin. The color drained from Irene's face. Even this, her supposed social support network, was compromised. As Mitchell exited the presentation hall, chaos erupted behind him. Investors demanded explanations, journalists shouted questions, and Bob Cummins' empire began to crumble. Outside, Dustin joined him. That went exactly as planned. Almost. Mitchell checked his phone. New messages from his investigators confirming Irene's emergency meeting scheduled with Sylvia and Tammy. The night's not over yet. In his car, Mitchell reviewed the final pieces of his counter-strategy. The prototype's failure was just the beginning. His investigators had provided detailed files on Sylvia Warner and Tammy Irwin, Irene's closest confidants and supposed allies in her scheme. Sir, his driver interrupted, Mrs. Bruce is leaving the building. She appears to be heading to the Westbrook Country Club. Follow her. Maintain distance. Mitchell's phone lit up with updates. Apex's stock was already dropping. Bob Cummins was facing an emergency board meeting. And Irene, she thought she was heading to meet her co-conspirators for damage control. Instead, she was driving straight into the next phase of Mitchell's plan. The perfect life she'd tried to destroy was about to become her perfect nightmare. But that would be a story for another time, another act in this corporate tragedy. For now, Mitchell Bruce sat back in his car's leather seats, watching his wife's vehicle navigate through traffic, knowing that every turn brought her closer to her own destruction. The game had changed indeed, but not in the way she'd planned. Mitchell Bruce meticulously arranged the items on the kitchen table. Irene's platinum wedding ring, freshly printed divorce papers, and a black USB drive. Each object represented 20 years of marriage destroyed by betrayal. His phone buzzed with updates from his surveillance team. Target IB leaving Westbrook Country Club with SW and TI intoxicated. ETA 25 minutes. Perfect timing. Mitchell activated the house's security systems, ensuring every camera would record what was about to unfold. The digital displays throughout the house came alive, ready to play their part in tonight's performance. At precisely 3 a.m., headlights swept across the driveway. Laughter filtered through the security feed. Irene, Sylvia Warner, and Tammy Irwin, returning from their girls' night. Are you sure about tomorrow's board meeting? Sylvia's voice carried clearly through the monitoring system. Everything's arranged, Irene replied, her words slightly slurred. Once Bob announces the neural interface breakthrough, Mitchell won't know what hit him. And the children? Tammy asked. Handled. Tyler's gambling debts keep him in line, and Emma's trust fund will buy her silence. It's perfect. Mitchell watched through the cameras as Irene bid goodbye to her friends and entered the house. She stumbled slightly, catching herself on the doorframe. Her laughter died when she saw the items arranged on the kitchen table. Cute threat, she called out, her voice echoing through the empty house. When no response came, she shrugged and picked up the USB drive. Really, Mitchell? So dramatic. She plugged it into her laptop, her manicured fingers tapping impatiently. The screen flickered to life. The first video began playing, footage from their daughter's graduation 3 months ago. Irene watched herself slip away from the ceremony, meeting Bob Cummins behind the auditorium. Their embrace left no doubt about their relationship. Amateur surveillance, Irene muttered, but her hand trembled as she reached for her wine glass. The next clip showed her entering various hotels over the past 6 months, Bob following minutes later. Each scene was time-stamped, documented, irrefutable. More footage played. Irene meeting with board members, making promises, offering bribes. Her sessions with the bookies who held Tyler's debts. The conversation with Emma at the beach house, attempting to buy her silence. Then came the financial records. Every fraudulent transaction, every diverted charitable donation, every offshore account. Laurel Becker's forensic analysis appeared, highlighting the systematic looting of the company's foundations. Irene's face paled as she recognized the extent of Mitchell's knowledge. She grabbed her phone, frantically dialing Bob's number. No answer. The final video began playing. Mitchell appeared on screen, seated in his office. "Hello, Irene." His recorded image spoke with cold precision. "By now you've realized that your plan to destroy me has failed. Every betrayal, every manipulation, every theft. I've known about them all." Irene's hands shook as she poured more wine. "You and Bob thought you were so clever." Mitchell's recording continued. "Using our children as pawns, stealing company secrets, preparing for a hostile takeover. But you forgot something crucial about me, Irene. I never lose." The video displayed evidence of Bob's previous victims: Patricia Wilson, Sarah Martinez, Jennifer Taylor. Their testimonies about his methods, their ruined lives. "Check your phone," the recording instructed. As if on cue, Irene's phone exploded with notifications. Breaking news alerts about Apex Innovations stock collapse. SEC investigations announced. FBI raids in progress. Bob Cummins arrested on multiple charges of corporate espionage. One headline screamed. Bruce Medical Technologies files billion-dollar lawsuit against Apex Innovations, declared another. Charitable foundation fraud exposed. Prominent socialite named in federal investigation. Irene's wine glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the floor. More alerts flooded in. Her personal accounts frozen, credit cards canceled, assets seized. The video continued relentlessly. Your friends, Sylvia and Tammy, have already provided sworn statements about your activities. They were quite eager to cooperate once they saw the evidence. It seems loyalty can be bought and sold quite easily in your social circle. Irene stumbled to the kitchen table, staring at the divorce papers. Every page detailed her infidelity, her crimes, her manipulation of their children. You taught our son to gamble, enabled his addiction to control him. Mitchell's voice was pure ice. You tried to buy our daughter's silence with cars and trust funds. You betrayed not just me, Irene, but our entire family. The final documents appeared on screen. Federal indictments, regulatory investigations, civil lawsuits. Everything needed to destroy not just her marriage, but her entire life. Your choice now is simple, Mitchell concluded. Sign the divorce papers, cooperate with all investigations, and disappear. Fight, and I'll ensure every criminal charge, every financial penalty, every social humiliation falls squarely on you. Bob won't help you. He's facing his own destruction. The screen went dark, leaving Irene alone in the kitchen. Her perfectly manicured life lay in ruins around her, as precisely engineered as the fake neural interface prototype that had destroyed Bob's credibility. She reached for the divorce papers with trembling hands. Her signature, usually so confident, wavered on each page. "Mitchell," she called out, her voice small in the empty house. "Mitchell, we can talk about this." No response came. Only her phone continued its relentless notification of her world's collapse. In his private office across town, Mitchell watched through the security feeds as his wife of 20 years signed away their marriage. Each signature represented another nail in the coffin of her ambitions. His phone buzzed updates from his team. Bob Cummins in FBI custody. Apex Innovations board calling emergency meeting. Media embargo lifted, stories breaking worldwide. Offshore accounts frozen by international authorities. Everything proceeding exactly as planned. The trap he'd laid so carefully had sprung perfectly, catching all his enemies in a single, devastating strike. Mitchell poured himself a measure of scotch, watching as Irene finally broke down at the kitchen table, her carefully constructed facade crumbling like the empire she'd tried to steal. He'd learned corporate warfare at his grandfather's knee, and the first lesson had been simple. When you strike at enemies, leave them no chance of recovery. Tonight, midnight had struck for Irene and Bob. Their perfect plan had become their perfect destruction. And Mitchell Bruce had reminded everyone why he'd never lost a corporate war. The following days brought a cascade of destruction so precise it could only have been orchestrated by a master strategist. Mitchell Bruce's counterattack unfolded across multiple fronts, each blow calculated for maximum impact. At Apex Innovation's emergency board meeting, Bob Cummins faced his own directors via video link from federal custody. The evidence Mitchell had provided was damning. Not just the current corporate espionage, but a pattern spanning years. Mr. Cummins, the board chairman's voice dripped contempt, explain how our company's flagship product is nothing but stolen, defective technology. There's been a misunderstanding. Bob attempted his usual charm. The prototype's issues are merely technical glitches. Technical glitches? A board member interrupted, waving financial reports. Our stock has dropped 60%. Shareholders are filing lawsuits. The SEC has frozen our accounts. On multiple screens, evidence mounted. Detailed documentation of Bob's previous corporate raids, testimony from former victims, proof of systematic technology theft. Patricia Wilson sends her regards. Mitchell's voice came from the doorway as he entered the boardroom. As do Sarah Martinez and Jennifer Taylor. Your previous victims were quite helpful in establishing your pattern of behavior. Bob's face drained of color. You can't prove. Actually, I can. Mitchell nodded to Laurel Becker, who began displaying forensic financial records. Every transaction, every shell company, every stolen piece of technology. Your entire methodology, exposed. The board watched in horror as their CEO's criminal empire unraveled. Mitchell's evidence was comprehensive, irrefutable, and devastating. Across town, a similar scene played out at the SEC's regional office. Irene sat with her hastily hired lawyers as investigators presented proof of her charitable foundation fraud. Mrs. Bruce, the lead investigator, consulted his files. Can you explain these discrepancies in the foundation's accounts? My client exercises her right to remain silent, her lawyer interjected. That's fine. The investigator smiled thinly. Ms. Wells has been quite cooperative in documenting every fraudulent transfer. Dina Wells, Irene's former assistant, had provided a detailed roadmap of the embezzlement scheme. Each foundation, each offshore account, each false record, all meticulously documented. The media feasted on the scandal. Headlines screamed, Apex CEO arrested in massive corporate espionage case. Socialite wife implicated in foundation fraud. Bruce Medical Technologies reveals corporate raid attempt. But Mitchell's masterstroke targeted their social standing. Evidence emerged of how they'd manipulated his children, using Tyler's gambling addiction, attempting to buy Emma's silence. She encouraged it. Tyler testified from his rehabilitation facility in Switzerland. Mom introduced me to bookies, made sure I stayed in debt. Said it was insurance to keep me quiet about her affair. Emma's recorded confrontation with Irene at the beach house went public, showcasing a mother attempting to bribe her own daughter's silence with a trust fund. The social fallout was immediate. Former friends fled, terrified of being tainted by association. Country club memberships were revoked. Charity boards rushed to distance themselves. Sylvia Warner and Tammy Irwin, Irene's closest confidants, proved especially eager to cooperate with investigators. Irene orchestrated everything, Sylvia testified. She bragged about manipulating her children, stealing company secrets. Said Mitchell was too focused on his grandfather's legacy to notice. Tammy provided text messages, emails, recordings of Irene's boasts about the planned takeover. She said Bob's previous successes were amateur compared to what they had planned for Bruce Medical. The evidence Mitchell had gathered proved devastating in multiple jurisdictions. Federal prosecutors filed corporate espionage charges. The SEC pursued securities fraud investigations. International authorities froze offshore accounts. Civil lawsuits mounted from shareholders and foundations. Bob Cummins watched his corporate empire implode from a federal detention center. His previous victims filed their own lawsuits, encouraged by Mitchell's legal team. Apex Innovations' board voted to remove him as CEO. The company's stock became virtually worthless as investors fled and partners canceled contracts. Irene's attempts to spin the story failed spectacularly. Her carefully cultivated social media presence became a liability as old posts contradicted her current claims. Her lawyer attempted damage control. My client was manipulated by Mr. Cummins. Mitchell's legal team responded with evidence of Irene's active participation, her systematic corruption of foundation accounts, her calculated exploitation of their children. Mrs. Bruce was not a victim, they stated. She was an architect of this scheme, using her position as both corporate officer and mother to facilitate fraud. The offshore accounts she'd established proved especially damaging. International prosecutors traced millions in embezzled charitable donations, all carefully hidden through shell companies. Even her social circle abandoned her. Former friends deleted photos, removed tags, erased all evidence of their association. The same society that had once celebrated her now treated her as a pariah. I saw them plotting, a country club employee testified. Mrs. Bruce and Mr. Cummins would meet here, planning how to steal the company. She laughed about betraying her husband. Mitchell's reputation, in contrast, grew stronger. His handling of the crisis demonstrated both corporate strength and moral clarity. He protected not just his company, business analysts noted, but exposed a pattern of corporate predation that threatened the entire industry. The final blow came when evidence emerged of Bob and Irene's attempt to frame Bruce Medical for technology theft. They planned to claim we stole their research, Dustin Whalen testified, presenting documentation. The PR campaign was ready to launch, designed to destroy our reputation while they seized control. Instead, their own reputations lay in ruins. Bob faced federal charges that would keep him in prison for years. Irene's social and financial destruction was complete. Mitchell had orchestrated their fall with the same precision they'd planned their attack. Every aspect of their lives, professional, financial, social, systematically dismantled. This, he told his board, is how we handle betrayal at Bruce Medical Technologies. The message resonated throughout corporate America. Mitchell Bruce was not a man to cross, in business or in life. 1 year later, the grand ballroom of the Westbrook Tech Center hummed with anticipation. Mitchell Bruce stood at the podium, preparing to unveil Bruce Medical Technologies' genuine neural interface breakthrough. The audience represented a who's who of medical technology, investors, doctors, researchers, media, all eager to witness the innovation that had been worth such corporate warfare. Ladies and gentlemen, Mitchell began, his authority undimmed by the past year's battles. Today we demonstrate not just technological advancement, but the triumph of legitimate innovation over corporate theft. The presentation screens activated, showing the real neural interface prototype, light years ahead of the flawed version Bob Cummins had attempted to steal. In the front row, Tyler sat straight-backed in his designer suit, 1 year sober. After intensive therapy in Switzerland, he'd returned to take charge of the company's new youth addiction support foundation. The Bruce Foundation for Recovery, he'd named it, transforming his own redemption story into hope for others. His gambling addiction, once Irene's leverage, had become his mission. Emma watched from beside him, her acceptance letter to Harvard Law School tucked in her purse. Her exposure of the corruption had sparked a passion for corporate law, turning betrayal into purpose. The neural interface represents more than medical advancement, Mitchell continued. It represents our commitment to ethical innovation, to corporate integrity, to family values that can't be bought or sold. The demonstration proceeded flawlessly. Medical experts marveled at the technology's capabilities, its potential to transform prosthetic medicine. This is legitimate brilliance, one researcher commented. Unlike Apex's stolen prototype, this actually works. Across town in a small apartment in Arizona, Irene watched the live stream on her laptop. Her designer clothes replaced by off-the-rack basics. Her social media empire reduced to blocked accounts and deleted contacts. Her phone showed unread messages from her last attempt to contact Emma. Irene, darling, please. I'm still your mother. Emma, sorry, Mom. Some clocks can't be turned back. Her counter-allegations had crumbled against Laurel Becker's forensic evidence. Every attempt to salvage her reputation had only revealed more proof of her culpability. Back at the presentation, Mitchell fielded questions about the company's enhanced security measures. We've learned valuable lessons, he acknowledged, about protecting innovation, about verifying loyalty, about recognizing betrayal before it destroys what we've built. The year had transformed Bruce Medical Technologies. Stock prices had soared after Mitchell's handling of the crisis. New partnerships formed as competitors recognized the value of alliance over antagonism. Tyler approached the podium to describe the Addiction Foundation's work. His voice carried the strength of hard-won recovery. My mother enabled my gambling to control me, he admitted openly. But thanks to my father's intervention, that manipulation became motivation to help others. Emma's contribution came through legal channels, working with prosecutors to expose similar schemes at other companies. Her witness statement had helped convict Bob Cummins on multiple federal charges. Mr. Bruce, a reporter asked, any response to criticism that your retaliation was unnecessarily harsh? Mitchell's smile could have cut diamonds. Family means everything, both blood and corporate. Betray either, and midnight strikes. Those weren't just words. They were a promise. The presentation concluded with announcement of new medical partnerships, research initiatives, charitable programs. Bruce Medical Technologies had emerged stronger, its reputation enhanced by Mitchell's decisive response to betrayal. At a private celebration afterward, Emma showed her father her phone. Another desperate text from Irene. She won't stop trying, Emma said softly. Mitchell studied his daughter's response. Sorry, Mom. Some clocks can't be turned back. You learned well, he told her. About consequences, about loyalty, about protecting what matters. Tyler joined them, his one-year sobriety chip visible on his watch chain. The foundation approved 3 new treatment centers today. We're helping people escape the same traps I fell into, turning our family's darkest moment into something meaningful. Mitchell watched his children with carefully concealed pride. They'd emerged stronger from the betrayal, each finding their own path to redemption. Emma through law, exposing corporate corruption. Tyler through recovery, helping other addiction victims. The company's reputation is stronger than ever, Dustin Whalen reported, joining their small group. The neural interface patent applications are proceeding smoothly. No one's even attempted corporate espionage since, well, they learned their lesson, Mitchell replied. About consequences, the celebration continued around them, but Mitchell's thoughts turned to the broader impact of his response to betrayal. Bob Cummins, once a feared corporate raider, now served time in federal prison. His pattern of seducing executives' wives and stealing company secrets had finally met its match. Irene's social ostracism was complete. Her former friends, like Sylvia and Tammy, had provided devastating testimony about her manipulations. Now she lived in obscurity, her attempts to rebuild her life thwarted by the comprehensive nature of her disgrace. Mr. Bruce? A young executive approached nervously. The board wanted me to inform you that the European expansion is ready to proceed. All partnerships have been thoroughly vetted, as per your new protocols. Mitchell nodded, satisfied. Every aspect of the company now reflected lessons learned from betrayal. Enhanced security, rigorous partner screening, zero tolerance for disloyalty. Later that evening, in his private office, Mitchell reviewed the day's success. The neural interface launch had exceeded expectations. The stock price hit new records. The Bruce name stood stronger than ever. His phone buzzed with one final update. A report from his security team tracking Irene's continued exile. She remained isolated, financially strapped, socially ruined. Just as he'd planned. Dad? Emma stood in the doorway, her Harvard Law acceptance letter in hand. Thank you for showing me what real strength looks like. Mitchell gazed at his daughter, seeing the future of his legacy. Not just in the company's success or the technological breakthroughs, but in the lessons taught about loyalty, consequence, and power. Remember what you learned, he told her. About protecting what matters. About the price of betrayal. Emma's smile showed she understood perfectly. She'd watched her father orchestrate the complete destruction of those who'd betrayed him. The lesson would never fade. The Bruce legacy continued, stronger for having survived attempted destruction. Mitchell had proven that in business and in family, betrayal earned only one response: absolute, uncompromising retribution. The perfect life Irene had tried to destroy had become something even stronger. A testament to Mitchell Bruce's unwavering principle. Family meant everything, both blood and corporate. And those who forgot that truth paid the ultimate price. Epilogue: 15 years later. After a decade and a half, the Bruce Medical Technologies betrayal had become more than a corporate scandal. It was a cautionary tale that shaped an entire industry. The consequences of that fateful night, when midnight struck, continued to ripple through lives, careers, and families. The Fallen Queen. Irene Starr's descent from corporate socialite to social pariah had been meticulously engineered by her ex-husband. 15 years later, at 60, she lived in a cramped one-bedroom apartment in Phoenix, working as a receptionist at Desert Smiles Dental for $34,500 a year. Her morning routine never varied. Generic coffee instead of artisanal lattes, bus rides replacing her luxury cars, off-the-rack clothes from discount stores where she once wouldn't have been caught dead. The transformation from elegant PR executive to anonymous office worker was complete. Every attempt to rebuild had met the same systematic destruction. When she applied for PR positions, Mitchell's network ensured her history surfaced. The charitable foundations she defrauded maintained detailed records of her crimes, easily accessible to any potential employer. Ms. Starr? Her young supervisor at the dental office approached her desk. "There's been another complaint about your attitude with patients." Irene forced a smile, remembering when she commanded boardrooms. "I'll do better," but she wouldn't. The bitterness had settled too deep, etched into every line of her once pristine face. Her attempts to reconnect with her children met consistent rejection. To emma.bruce@brucemedical.com. From irenestar72@gmail.com. Subject: Your mother misses you. Emma, please. 15 years is long enough. I'm still your mother. The documentary they're showing about the scandal only tells one side. Give me a chance to explain. Message blocked by recipient. Her last attempt at social rehabilitation had been a memoir proposal, Behind the Bruce Empire: The Truth About My Fall. Every publisher declined. One editor's response was particularly cutting. "While your story is fascinating, publishing your memoir would require fact-checking. The documented evidence of your crimes, particularly your manipulation of your own children, makes your perspective commercially unviable." The imprisoned predator. Bob Cummins' fall proved even more spectacular. 15 years into his 25-year sentence at Arizona State Prison Complex, the former corporate raider had become a shell of himself. His dark hair had gone gray, his once commanding presence diminished by prison routine. "Prisoner Cummins," the guard's voice echoed through his cell. "Your appeal hearing results arrived." Bob's hands trembled as he opened the envelope. Fifth appeal denied. The judge's response was scathing. The petitioner's claim of diminished capacity due to corporate seduction compulsion is rejected. The systematic nature of his crimes, particularly the pattern of manipulating executives' wives and destroying companies, demonstrates clear premeditation. His prison routine was a mockery of his former life. 6 a.m. Wake up in an 8x10 cell instead of his penthouse. 7 a.m. Cafeteria breakfast replacing 5-star restaurants. 8 a.m. Prison library, obsessively studying Bruce Medical's patents. 12 p.m. Mandatory therapy sessions where he ranted about Mitchell Bruce. 5 p.m. Writing endless appeals that went nowhere. 10 p.m. Lights out, alone with his memories of power. His former victims had turned his methodology into a seminar series. The Cummins Trap, Identifying Corporate Seduction Schemes. Patricia Wilson, Sarah Martinez, and Jennifer Taylor toured business schools, their presentations always ending with his prison booking photo. The Empire Builder. Mitchell Bruce, at 60, had transformed his billion-dollar company into a global medical technology powerhouse. The neural interface technology, protected from Bob and Irene's attempted theft, had revolutionized prosthetic medicine. His new office occupied the top floor of Bruce Medical's 100-story global headquarters in San Francisco. The view encompassed not just the bay, but the legacy he'd built on the ashes of betrayal. "Mr. Bruce?" His executive assistant's voice came through the intercom. "The quarterly numbers are ready." The financial report told a story of dominance. Market capitalization, $500 billion. Neural interface division revenue, $85 billion annually. Research and development budget, $20 billion. Charitable foundation assets, $30 billion. Global employees, 150,000. Patent portfolio, 15,000 plus active patents. But Mitchell's true satisfaction came from the other reports, the ones tracking his former wife and her lover's continued demise. His security team maintained exhaustive surveillance. Quarterly surveillance report. Subject: Irene Starr, former Bruce. Financial status: near poverty. Employment: marginal. Social connections: none. Mental health: deteriorating. Attempted career revivals: all failed. Public reputation: permanently damaged. Subject: Robert Cummins. Prison status: maximum security. Appeal status: all denied. Mental state: obsessive/delusional. Assets: zero, all seized. Professional legacy: case study in criminal behavior. Future prospects: none. The next generation. Emma Bruce, at 42, had become more than just Bruce Medical's chief legal officer. Her Harvard law degree and personal experience with corporate betrayal shaped her into a feared presence in corporate law. Her department's reputation for destroying corporate raiders matched her father's ruthlessness. The Bruce Protocol became standard terminology for aggressive legal defense against corporate espionage. "The SEC report is ready," she informed her father during their weekly meeting. "They're using our case as a template for detecting spouse-involved corporate fraud." Her own family life stood in stark contrast to her mother's betrayal. Married to a federal judge, with 2 children who'd never met their grandmother, Emma had built her life on the lessons learned from Irene's destruction. Tyler Bruce, at 44, had transformed personal weakness into institutional strength. The Bruce Foundation for Recovery, started from his own gambling addiction, now operated 50 treatment centers nationwide. "We understand the mechanisms of manipulation," he told a conference of addiction specialists. "My mother used my gambling to control me. Now we use that knowledge to free others from similar traps." The Foundation's annual report revealed its impact. 50,000 patients treated annually, 85% recovery rate, $500 million annual budget, neural interface therapy integration, research partnerships with top universities, zero contact with Irene Starr. The loyal soldiers. Those who'd stood with Mitchell during the crisis had prospered. Dustin Whalen, though retired from R&D, served as chairman of Bruce Medical's board. His loyalty during the theft attempt had earned him not just wealth, but lasting influence. Laurel Becker's forensic accounting firm had become the gold standard in corporate fraud detection. Her analysis of Irene's financial crimes was required reading in accounting programs. Rick Carney rose to FBI director, his handling of the Bruce case launching a stellar career in law enforcement. His agents still studied the case as a perfect example of corporate crime investigation. Dina Wells, Irene's former assistant turned whistleblower, headed global compliance for a major tech company. Her testimony against her former boss opened doors throughout corporate America. The lasting impact. The Bruce Medical betrayal spawned an entire industry of corporate defense measures. The Cummins Protocol for detecting predatory CEOs. Bruce-level security for protecting corporate secrets. Irene's law requiring enhanced charitable foundation oversight. Mitchell's rule about swift, total response to betrayal. Business schools taught the case study, the Bruce response, when total destruction is the only answer. Corporate lawyers studied Mitchell's methodical dismantling of his enemies. The documentary series Betrayal at Bruce Medical won multiple awards, each new episode revealing fresh details of Irene and Bob's downfall. Their attempts to protest their portrayal only reinforced their pariah status. The final verdict. Mitchell's response to betrayal had become legendary in corporate circles. The message was clear: cross Mitchell Bruce and expect no mercy, no redemption, no second chances. In her Phoenix apartment, Irene watched her ex-husband accept another CEO of the Year award on TV. Her hands shook as she sipped cheap wine, remembering when she'd stood beside him at such events. In his prison cell, Bob Cummins added another page to his obsessive journal about neural interface technology, his once brilliant mind trapped in endless loops of what if and if only. And in his San Francisco office, Mitchell Bruce reviewed the latest surveillance reports with cold satisfaction. 15 years hadn't dulled his appetite for their continued suffering. If anything, time had proven the wisdom of his approach. The Neural Interface Division has submitted names for the next-generation product line, Emma reported during their weekly dinner. Oh, Mitchell raised an eyebrow. They're suggesting the Vindication series. Mitchell allowed himself a small smile. The name was perfect. Technology that had survived theft attempts, corporate raids, and betrayal, emerging stronger for the crucible it had endured. Like the man who'd created it. The sun set over San Francisco, painting the sky in colors of victory. In Phoenix, Irene prepared for another night alone with her regrets. In prison, Bob counted the endless days of his sentence. And in his tower, Mitchell Bruce surveyed his empire, built on the absolute destruction of those who dared to betray him. Some debts could never be repaid. Some crimes could never be forgiven. Some clocks could never be turned back. And midnight, once struck, would toll forever. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there.